Hi, Rachael Sloan here. Thank you so much for joining me for this comprehensive masterclass. In just a minute, we're going to dive in and get started. But first, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this time and investing it in yourself and in your future. And I know with everything you're going through, doing that, spending this time with me today might not have been the easiest thing for you to do. So thank you for being here and thank you for trusting me. Again, going through a divorce like this, trust isn't always easy. And trusting me, I'm a woman, and a woman's probably been putting you through hell lately. So that's not necessarily an easy thing for you to do either. So I don't take your time or your trust lightly. And so I've prepared a ton of valuable content for you in this masterclass. And I'm really excited to share it with you. So please grab a notebook or a journal, grab a pen, and let's dive in and get to work. All right, so I'm so excited to share this training with you today, which is all about the one strategy that has already helped hundreds of men get their ex-wives out of their heads so that they can move forward with their lives. And I'm also going to share some new tools and tactics that are going to help you regulate the really intense emotions that tend to come up during a separation or divorce. So as I just said, hundreds of men have already used this strategy to move on from an unwanted divorce. And here's just a few comments from recent clients that have worked with me inside Better Beyond Divorce. So you can see here, one client saying, I finally feel like I can get to the other side of this intact and I will be a better man and human being. I'm so grateful. This is one of my favorites. I don't think my goals have changed, but I do have an added goal, a goal to find love again with a woman. 4 months ago, I couldn't see any remote possibility in having a thought like that. You might not be able to imagine it now, but so much can change so quickly when you implement this strategy. And then of course, my guilt and shame have vanished. Negative self-talk is at an all-time low. These particular comments were from men who have worked with me. They've taken one of my courses or worked in a coaching program with me. But you guys, I also get emails every single week from men who just watch my YouTube videos and they pull this strategy out of my videos and they implement it in their lives and it changes everything. That's what's so amazing and exciting and inspiring to me about sharing this strategy with you today. It works if you show up for yourself, if you practice these steps I'm going to share with you consistently. It works, whether you get additional support or not. So in a little bit, we're going to talk about how you can implement this on your own and how to tell if you need a little additional support to make it work for you. In this training, you're going to learn the exact strategy that takes my clients from overwhelming despair to calmly negotiating with their exes, leveling up their careers, and dating with confidence. We're going to talk about the 3 reasons that I see men getting stuck in bitterness and regret and what we can do about that. We're going to talk about how to get your life back on track, even if it feels like the whole foundation, everything that you've built, everything you thought you were, has been ripped out from under you. And we're going to do so much more than that. Please stay with me to the end of the training because I'm also going to answer some of your questions around what women are thinking during a divorce. And I know you have them, so stick with me. We're going to focus on you first, and then at the very end, we'll talk about what's going on in her head and answer some of those whys that might be driving you crazy. And finally, please take notes. As I've said, I really value your time and your trust, and I've prepared a lot of valuable content to share with you today. I'm here, I'm gonna show up for you today during this masterclass, and my one request is that you show up for yourself as well. So you've set aside some time to be with me here today. Let's turn off your phone, get rid of any distractions, get a notebook, get a pen, sit down and really be present with me for the next hour or so as we go through this content. I fully believe that this next hour can be life-changing for you. It can change your future, it can change what's next for your kids, for your career, for your next relationship. So please be present with me here while we do it. And maybe that takes us to the elephant in the room, which is this really going to work for you? I'm here talking about moving forward, new relationships, thriving in your career, being a great dad, getting your ex-wife out of your head, getting yourself out of the depression. Is that really possible for you? And I know you've probably asked yourself this. I mean, how old are you? How long have you been married? Is this your first divorce or is it your second or maybe your third? Do you have young kids? Maybe you've been married for a decade or maybe you've been married for 3 or 4 decades. Or maybe you are a young parent and you had envisioned your whole future with this partner, or maybe you lived most of your life since you were a teenager with this partner and now you're in your 60s and can't imagine moving forward, dating somebody else like I'm talking about. This is kind of always the elephant in the room because most people are wondering, can this really work for me? At this point in my life, after everything I've been through, is it really possible for me to make these changes? And depression doesn't help, because when you're in that dark hole, it doesn't feel like anything can get better. So I've pulled a couple of case studies for you that I want to share with you here, some examples of what's possible for people in all different aspects of life. The first one I want to tell you about is Gabriel. He was going through his second divorce at just 45 years old with 2 very young children and an ex-wife who was just vicious, dragging his name through the mud, horrible, horrible accusations, just as bad as it can be, much as you can imagine, she was doing it. On top of that, he was trying to get into grad school, trying to level up his career. And he just couldn't even imagine dating. He was like, who's going to want me? My second divorce, single father to these young kids, crazy ex. It's not surprising that he had given up on women or dating, but he was also determined not to become bitter. And so he dove in, he applied this strategy, and within a few months, he found himself dating an amazing woman who didn't love him despite where he was in his life. She loved him because of it. She loved his resilience. She loved his commitment. And he was also able to move his career forward in the ways that he was imagining. And then this is Mark. He's a great example. He's one of my favorite current clients because he's 65 years old and was married for 37 years. 37 years, right? That's almost 4 decades together with the same woman. And here he is going through an unwanted separation. And just a few months in, Mark is finding himself feeling hopeful, looking forward, even thinking about dating in the next relationship. His determination not to give in to fear or anxiety or anger or frustration has just been an inspiration to me every single day. And then there's Sean. He was one of the early clients I worked with in Better Beyond Divorce. Sean was 70 years old when we met, and he was going through his second divorce. He'd been married to his second wife for 20 years. He had grown children, grandchildren, stepkids, step-grandchildren. And when I met him, he was really struggling with what his wife had told him, which was that she had no intention of ever having sex again, period, with anybody. And at 70 years old, Sean, after doing the work, applying this strategy, found himself dating, meeting some really amazing women, and eventually finding a relationship that was deepening into something more. There's Bob, who went through the worst kind of betrayal, his wife and his best friend. You might be surprised how many clients I've had with similar situations, but for Bob, it was especially traumatic because she was pregnant within just a few months of all of this. But after just a few months of applying this strategy, here's what Bob writes. My life is now great, and I have an awesome relationship with an amazing new woman. I've shared all my darkest actions and thoughts with her, and she accepts me. Sad to say this, but in the past few months, I think I've been closer to her than ever with my ex-wife. For Kyle, Tommy, James, and Terry, they had to deal with living in the same house as their ex-wife during the separation. And for some of them, she was actively dating. So imagine you had to watch her getting ready for and going out on dates while you're still sharing a home and maybe taking care of the kids together with them. But all 4 of these men not only made it through using this strategy, they've found themselves landing on their feet with new successful business endeavors, new romantic relationships, and for some of them, even really healthy, solid co-parenting relationships with that same ex-wife. So yes, it is possible for you. Whether you've been married for 3 years or 43 years, if you're young and you had your whole future planned with this woman, if you have young children, if you're in your 60s with grown kids, if she has done horrible things, if you have done horrible things, it's still possible for you to feel better, to get your confidence back, to get out of the depression, to get her out of your head, and to move forward into a future that is not lonely, but is full of love and life and laughter. So as we go through this training, I'm going to share what all of these men had in common that helped them achieve these amazing results. If we're just meeting, and maybe you're new here and new to me and new to my community, let me share just a little bit about myself so that you know who I am and why I'm even doing any of this. So this is me. You can meet my husband, Greg. After some difficult years and a lot of moves, we have settled into one of the most beautiful places on earth, in my opinion, Oaxaca, Mexico. We live up in the mountains with a pile of rescue dogs and a horrible road up to our house. So I have been learning to ride a dirt bike quite successfully. But the important thing about me is my mission. And my mission is to help men take back control of their identities and their lives after divorce. As you might imagine, I started out coaching women, and most of the women I coached were looking for empowerment. But the more I kind of got into this world of women's empowerment, the more I realized it wasn't empowering. The narrative that was being told in that whole movement was about the evils of the patriarchy and the gender inequality, and it all left women bitter and angry and feeling victimized and powerless. And I realized that it really wasn't helping women feel empowered at all. And then I started to work with a few men, and I began seeing the impact that that whole narrative had on men. It was even worse for them. They were the bigger victims because their whole lives, their whole identity and sense of purpose in the world could be ripped away when their wives left. This cultural story that doesn't empower women is even harder on men. It leaves women bitter, but it kills men. So many men die from the despair and depression of an unwanted divorce. So over the last 3 years, I've been working with men, and I have worked with several hundred separated and divorced men in that time, and I've seen firsthand the worst possible consequences. I've seen men die from that despair and depression. But I've also seen how men can set themselves free by taking back their identities, their purpose, by learning to work effectively with their emotions. That's maybe the number one. And I've seen that men can do that, can set themselves free without writing off women, giving into the whole red pill movement, or giving up love and healthy, happy relationships. Your happiness, your health, and your success do not have to be tied to the thoughts or actions or feelings of a woman. Your relationships can be rich and intimate and satisfying without being codependent. I have no interest in being part of an empowerment movement that creates more victims and more villains in this world. I think we need to humanize ourselves, we need to humanize each other, and we need to deal with our own pain so that we can have better relationships. So that's me. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help men break free from the codependent patterns and free themselves mentally and emotionally so that they can live fuller, happier, healthier lives. So in this work, I have seen what works, and I've seen some amazing success stories like the ones I've shared with you, and like Tommy, who went from feeling overwhelmed and stressed to the point that his body was literally shaking uncontrollably, to not only feeling calm and energized, but also dating a wonderful woman just a few months after his separation. And in this time, I've also seen what doesn't work. And that is the wonderful thing about these digital trainings like this one or online courses. It's that we can condense down years of experience into hours or days of work, and we can save you from having to make all of the same mistakes that I made early on and that my clients have made over the years. So after working with so many men these last few years, I've discovered these important things. I've discovered the fastest way to make previously intolerable emotions manageable, the shortest path to forgiving your own mistakes, letting go of regret and resentment, and building confidence. I've figured out what actually works to attract and build deep, honest, intimate relationships at any stage of life. And I've found effective tools for letting go and getting her out of your head. And it works for any human nervous system. My clients and I all figured this out the slow, hard way, but you get to skip all of that because we already did it. I started to tell you about Tommy a minute ago. Like I was saying, his nervous system, he was so stressed, so overwhelmed that he was literally shaking throughout the day. He couldn't stop his body from shaking. And he was getting divorced, but he was still sharing a home with his soon-to-be ex-wife and their 2 teenage kids. And his ex-wife would sometimes get drunk, and I say sometimes, but it was a lot. And she would start these really awful, nasty fights where she would just say horrible things. And Tommy was a wreck. The only word he had for what he was feeling was terrible. He felt terrible, it was not sustainable, and he had no idea what to do about it. There is a reason that so many men tell me that divorce is the hardest thing they've ever experienced. I consistently have men who have been to battle, who have fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, tell me that going through this divorce was hands down the most difficult, most painful experience of their entire lives. A lot of people are quick to discount the intensity of pain that men feel during an unwanted divorce, and it's because they fail to understand one core principle. And that's that the pain from divorce is not a mental and emotional problem. It's a physiological problem. Divorce injures the nervous system in 2 very distinct ways. And that injury is no different than any other bodily injury or physical illness. The first way that divorce injures the nervous system, especially an unwanted divorce, is the loss of a primary relationship. And now for many people, it's the loss of the primary relationship in their lives. Human beings are not equipped to survive alone in this world. The only things that keep us alive in a world full of predators, freezing cold, and overwhelming heat, and countless other physical dangers are our big brains and our communities. It's other people. And for most of human history, we had much bigger networks of human connections and human relationships. We lived with extended family or within small communities and tribes. Men hunted and fought alongside their brothers and friends, and we had strong social bonds with many people in our communities. That's how we thrived. That's how we stayed alive. But in modern society, those extended relationships aren't really prized or valued. We tend to not have them. And so all of that social connection usually gets put on one person, just our spouse. They are the person, our person. As you can imagine, for most of human history, if we lost a connection with our primary relationships, if we lost our family or our tribe and were left alone, we probably would have died. And our nervous system knows that. So when we lose our primary relationships now, and remember now it's just this one primary relationship, we don't have this big network of other support, we lose that person, the nervous system still thinks that that's a death sentence. It doesn't realize that we live in a different world now, that divorce is not going to kill us, that we can survive just fine on our own. This is why the pain of divorce feels like you're going to die, because the nervous system is that strongly affected. It actually thinks you are going to die because of the divorce. The second way that divorce injures the nervous system is a loss of agency. And this is especially true with an unwanted divorce. When a human being, or any animal for that matter, is being threatened and loses the ability to fight back or to flee, they go into a freeze state. Agency is critical to the well-being of humans and frankly all other animals. Agency is our ability to influence or impact what's happening to us. And if we lose that ability, especially when we're being hurt, we start to shut down. Instead of trying to fight back or flee, when we realize that there is nothing we can do, that we are completely helpless, we go into a freeze state. Freeze is a shutdown. It's like a last-ditch survival effort that numbs us mentally and emotionally. It can take us even out of our physical bodies in extreme states, like torture, for instance. But what freeze does is it's basically trying to say, just hang in there, don't go crazy, stay here, and maybe the threat will pass. Maybe you'll still be alive when this is all over. Depression is a freeze state. It is not a pathology in and of itself. It is a normal nervous system reaction. It is a symptom of what has happened to you. Depending on which statistics you read, between 70 and 80% of divorces are filed by women. Many men fight heroically to try to save their marriage, to try to fix things, and then there's a moment where they realize that they can't, that this is happening. There's nothing they can do about it. They're losing the primary relationship in their lives, which remember is death to the nervous system. As far as your nervous system knows, you lose that primary relationship and you're done. So you're in a life and death situation and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Freeze is the natural response. Depression, the numbing of feeling, is the natural response. Depression is a natural response to the realization that you're probably going to die and there's nothing you can do to stop it. This is what was happening to Tommy. That shaking that he was experiencing was just a symptom of the intensity of what his nervous system was going through. And Tommy also had bouts of depression, and those were calmer, but they were scarier. Right? Because the absence of feeling in those moments of despair was as alarming as the intensity of the pain he felt at other times. And even more scary was the fact that suicidal thoughts start to come up during that depression state. This is where we lose so many men during divorce. This is where the suicide rate for divorced men is 9 times higher than that of the general population. And it makes perfect sense when you understand what's happening to their nervous systems. But it's not a mental or emotional issue. It's a physiologic response in the body to what they're experiencing, to their circumstances. And what's important to know is that this is a response, a physiologic response that's based on outdated information. In modern society, divorce is not death. You can and will survive. You can and will make new connections. You can and will move forward and have a healthy, happy, long life. And while you may not have chosen the divorce, you actually do still have some agency. There are elements of what happens to you next that you can control, and there's a lot in terms of your reactions and responses that you can control. So losing the primary relationship is no longer a death sentence, and you actually have more agency in this than you probably realize, especially if you've been in a relationship that's been codependent. Bringing the nervous system back into balance eliminates the symptoms. That's what Tommy and I did. I taught him the strategy that we're talking about today in this training, and he no longer feels depressed. Right? He's no longer shaking. He can feel the full range of human emotions. He can feel sadness and anger and joy and excitement and passion. And he recently told me he's super happy to say that his list of positive emotions far outweighs the list of negative emotions. Tommy and I didn't do anything magical or crazy. We just brought his physiology, his nervous system, back into balance. Healing the nervous system is not much different than healing another injury. Consider a broken bone, for example. One of the keys is to stop running around on your injured limb and focus on supporting the process of healing instead. It does take some time, but less time than you think. Here's Tommy dating an amazing new woman and having way more good days than bad days just a few months after his separation. So it takes a little time, but less than you might think, and it requires you to show up and consistently do the exercises that your nervous system needs to come back into balance. And this is why it's important to share a little bit of hope. It's why I'm telling you these stories, these success stories of guys like Tommy. When your nervous system is in freeze, you literally lose the ability to envision your future. This is actually a key symptom of depression, that you can't see the future. It seems foggy, it seems blurry. It's like hard to conceptualize tomorrow, much less 5 years from now. And again, that makes sense because depression is that freeze state where you're just trying to stay alive right now. There really isn't a future for you, right? Because your nervous system thinks that you're dying, but you're not. And the future is out there. And when your nervous system rebalances, the fog is going to lift and you're going to start to see that future with a lot of clarity. You will start to see the possibilities, the love, the joy, the hope, the connection that is out there for you. So I'd like to ask you, because it might be hard for you to see that right now, if anything were possible, if we were in an alternate universe and you really believed anything was possible 6 months from now, what would you want to experience? I want you to write this down. And dream big, you guys. Don't pull any punches here. Like, go big. Imagine anything were possible. What would you want to experience 6 months from now? Write it down because this is our goal. This is the vision that's going to be up on your wall that I want you to work for, that you're going to fight for. It's the thing, it's the hope that's going to keep you going, keep you motivated to do the work of healing your nervous system. Maybe you want to find love, real, genuine love and connection and intimacy in a way that you haven't had with your wife in years or maybe never had with her. Maybe you want to show up for your kids, being fully and present and open for them to give them the best future possible. Maybe you want to make a change in the world. Maybe this is a time for you to find your purpose, the thing that you're here to be doing. Or maybe you just want to feel safe and peaceful and happy and maybe feel those things for the first time in your entire life. What is so cool about the human nervous system is that when you learn to rebalance it, it opens up doors in all aspects of your life. And this is one of the amazing things about my job. I'm a divorce coach, right? I coach people in relationships and moving on from divorce. But I get to see my clients achieving transformations in all areas of their lives. They get promotions, they start new businesses, they get physically healthy, they bond with their children in ways that they never did before. All kinds of things open up in their world outside of relationships, outside of healing or dating or finding a new partner, because when the nervous system comes into balance, that future opens up. And for a lot of us in our modern society, our nervous systems aren't in balance very often. A lot of us spend a lot of time in fight or flight or freeze states. Anger and anxiety, that's fight or flight. Depression, overwhelm, that's freeze. So if you think about it, how often has your nervous system really felt calm and balanced recently? Now, it might sound cliche, but this really is where the opportunity is in divorce. If you don't hide from the intensity of what you're feeling, if instead you lean into it, you learn how to regulate that nervous system, you use what you're feeling as a tool to learn about your own physiology, how your brain and body works, then you can free yourself from anxiety, anger, and depression that you might have been feeling for years. And if you do that, if you lean in and do that, then divorce can be both the worst and the best thing that ever happened to you. That's the kind of transformation that I get to see men making every day. It is humbling and it is inspiring, and it's what keeps me going, because there's a lot of hard things that come up as we do this work. But when you rebalance your nervous system, it can change your whole life, and it can heal things, wounds that you have been carrying with you since childhood that have been limiting your potential, both in your relationships and in your career and in every aspect of your life. All right, so come back to this and write it down. If anything were possible 6 months from now, what would I want my life to look like? What would I want to experience? Write it down. And I promise you, you're going to look back on this in the not so distant future, just a few months from now, and you're going to realize that this is it, that this was the moment, the dream, the vision, the motivation that helped you get going and really commit to this journey to rebalance your nervous system. It's what keeps you moving forward, keeps you learning, keeps you growing, keeps you showing up for yourself and for this future. And I want to honor you because obviously you're the kind of person who, even in the darkest of moments, is willing to stay open, to stay curious, because you're here, you're watching this web class, you're here with me, and you're looking for hope. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for staying open. So you can go about getting your ex-wife out of your head and moving on from divorce the hard way. A lot of people do, and that can look like a lot of different things. It can look like talking through the story of your divorce in therapy week after week without anything changing. Therapy can be great, it can be helpful, but it tends to not come with a clear strategy or plan. And because of that, it can take a long time to get through this stuff in therapy. You can patiently wait for time to do its work, but time doesn't always do its work in the time you want it to. I've worked with men 4 years, 6 years, even 12 years post-divorce who still felt stuck. You can also get drawn into the red pill movement. And this last one is really interesting because it actually makes so much sense. When you're going through a divorce, especially an unwanted one, and you've lost agency and you've lost that primary relationship, so despair, depression, suicidal thoughts, everything that comes along with a freeze state is happening in your body. And that's actually really dangerous for you, right? We've already talked about how many men that it actually does kill. And so anger is a powerful, powerful tool for moving us out of freeze. Anger puts us back in the fight state. It's back in a place of agency where there's something we can do, something we can fight against. It's my opinion that getting angry, not just at your ex-wife, but sometimes at all women, probably saves thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives every single year. Anger is a powerful tool that can bring us out of depression. And I think that's part of why that red pill movement is so popular and so many men get drawn to it, because it is so much better to be angry than it is to be depressed. It's safer, it's more empowering, you have more agency there. It's a much healthier state to be in. It's moving out of freeze, closer to a balanced nervous system. But anger, like any good thing, there can be too much of it. Right? And over time, that anger turns to bitterness, it turns to resentment. And if you stay in that red pill kind of MGTOW movement too long, it actually takes you back to a place of helplessness. Because for a while you're empowered, you can move away from women, but you're a human, your nervous system wants connection, and you really are powerless to change what has happened to you, what women are doing. So you stay in that anger, it turns into bitterness, and it eventually takes you back to depression. It takes you back to helplessness. So I think it's a powerful and helpful movement, but staying in it too long can take you right back to where you started. A lot of my clients did that journey. They went down that path, and eventually they hit a point where they realized that they needed something more, right? They didn't want a life that was devoid of connection and relationships, and they didn't want to carry that bitterness and resentment with them their whole lives. All right, so let's go there now. Are you ready to talk about the easier way to reset your nervous system, heal your wounds, get your ex-wife out of your head, and take back control of your life? I know we've set some context and I've shared some stories, but now it's time to get to the nitty-gritty details. So we're going to talk about the 3 secrets and the 1 strategy that will actually take you from despair to confidence and help you get your life back on track, no matter how difficult or shaky things might feel for you right now. These are the 3 secrets and the 1 strategy that help men get their emotions under control and move on from divorce in a healthy way in just months, not years. All right, so our 1 strategy is to use conscious awareness to assess and treat the physical symptoms of your distressed nervous system. I call this process limbic awareness. All right, so what does this mean? Use conscious awareness to assess and treat the physical symptoms of your distressed nervous system. Well, secret number 1, your logical brain can't speak to your emotional brain. The neural pathways are not there. When we use logic, when we solve a problem or look for a solution, or we're consciously actively thinking about a problem, we're primarily using the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's like here-ish in your brain. And it's a great part of the brain. It's really effective for solving problems, but it has no direct neural connections to the limbic system, which is the more primal part of the brain where our emotions are both originated and regulated. So we can think through our problems all day, and we can even understand the solution or understand how we got here, and it can have absolutely no impact on how we feel. So we have to use a different part of the brain if we want to talk to our nervous system, right? We're trying to regulate the nervous system, get it out of depression, get it out of anger and anxiety to a balanced, calm state. Well, we have to use a part of the conscious mind that does have neural connections to the limbic system. To do that, we need to use the medial prefrontal cortex. It's the part of your brain that's responsible for conscious awareness. So if I ask you how your right knee feels right now, you can notice that. You can notice how your forehead feels, how your right knee and your left knee might feel the same or feel different. The part of your consciousness that notices that is the medial prefrontal cortex. It talks to the limbic system. When we start activating that part of the brain, powerful things happen. Usually men don't like it at first because you want to logic through it. But here's what Mark noticed. In less than a week, by applying these 3 simple yet very effective tools, I'm already feeling much better. And when I do start to feel overwhelmed, I use these techniques and calm down almost immediately. So grateful that I took this step. So there are 3 main reasons that I see men getting stuck after divorce. The first one is that they try to rationalize their way through their emotions, and it just doesn't work. Right? This might be familiar to you. Like, you know you need to let go, but you miss her like crazy and you can't stop thinking about her. Or you know that it took 2. But the feelings of shame or guilt or regret are overwhelming you, and it feels like this is all your fault. Right? You know that not every woman is just like your ex-wife, but when you even think about dating a woman, it just makes you mad, right? Like, women just make you angry. There's a disconnect between what the logical brain has figured out and what the emotional brain feels. And it doesn't matter that the logical brain's got it all figured out, because it's not speaking, it's not communicating effectively with the emotional brain, because the physical connections in the brain don't exist. Second reason I see men getting stuck is because they focus on the external and they ask why. Why did she leave? How could she accuse me of such things? Why didn't I see this in her sooner? Who did I marry? Why is this happening now? What could I have done to stop it? This is you in your logical brain trying to solve the problem, right? You're believing that if you can just figure out all the puzzle pieces, you'll get an answer that's finally satisfying. But you won't, because what you really want are 2 simple things. You want to feel safe here in the world and to know that you are loved and lovable. When those 2 things are true for you, the nervous system calms right down. The truth is that those feelings, a sense of security and belonging as a person in the world, and confidence that you are not only loved but worthy of the love that you're given, that knowledge has to be felt. It has to come from inside of you. This is what your logical brain's trying to do when you're asking why. But no amount of analyzing her behavior, words, or choices will prove to your brain that you matter. And no amount of anger, regret, or shame can replace the knowledge that you are valued and held in high regard. And unfortunately, for you, if you're trying to solve how you're feeling by figuring out the why, the lack of love and security go deeper than the divorce. They almost always go back to childhood experiences where you learned early on that security and love were not always guaranteed for you. If you want to feel safe and loved, we've got to go inside, use our awareness to heal wounds that are far older than your divorce. Trying to answer all the whys is just your brain trying to get unequivocal proof from the outside world that you matter, that you're lovable, and that you're going to be okay. That's why you want to understand. That's why you're trying to sort this out. But that information, you're never going to get a satisfying answer externally. It has to come from the inside out. And the third reason I see men getting stuck is because they discount the importance of what they feel. And if you are kind of sick of feelings, I don't blame you. A lot of times it's your wife's over-attentiveness to her emotional state that is part of the divorce, right? Women tend to be hyper-vigilant about their emotions and give too much credit to what they're feeling emotionally, right? The sense of what would make them happy And often that's what leads them to choose a divorce. Men, on the other hand, tend to discount their emotions and stuff them down or stifle them and just approach things with logic. But unfortunately, emotions are physical and they don't just go away when you ignore them. And so when you stifle your emotions, you're condemning your nervous system to a chronic state of fight or flight. It might be low level, might be high level, but it's there. This is why a lifetime of suppressing emotions usually results in chronic anxiety, depression, or anger that's difficult to control. So we have to find balance. We can't go throwing our lives away on every emotional whim, but we can't discount what we feel and why we feel it either. What we need is a strategy to consciously assess what those emotions are telling us so that we can respond appropriately and in ways that helps bring the nervous system into balance or keep the nervous system in balance. And so I love this quote by Shannon Alder: "Emotions are something you have, not something you are." Could it be that for you to not only get your ex-wife out of your head and take back control of your life, but to make your life better after this divorce, to take full advantage of the opportunities that are here, that you're actually going to succeed because of this web class, because you're here changing the way you view and approach the things that you feel, because you're putting a strategy in place, a strategy for effectively assessing and addressing emotional messages from your nervous system so that your emotions no longer have the power to hijack you in any area of your life. Earlier, we talked about Tommy and how he went from that state of overwhelming anxiety and pain in the early days of his separation to thriving in his work, developing a deep new relationship, and experiencing just a wide spectrum of positive, happy, joyful emotions in just a matter of months. Well, Tommy didn't have much of a relationship with his emotions when I first met him. In fact, the only word he could come up with to describe what he was feeling was terrible. He couldn't give me any more nuance about what terrible felt like. So when I shared these secrets with him and I offered him the strategy that I'm sharing with you in this video, he found that his brain was resisting what I was saying, right? He didn't know his emotions. He didn't really want to know his emotions. He just wanted them to go away. And Tommy is a really sweet guy and he didn't want to hurt my feelings. So he didn't say anything early on. But I found out later when he admitted to me that he thought these exercises were really silly. They seemed too simple. They seemed just silly was the word that he used. It didn't feel like doing enough. His logical brain was trying to overcomplicate things because he was trying to solve the emotional problem with his rational brain. And as we know, the connections just aren't there. It can't work. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. How often are my conscious thoughts in conflict with what I feel? How often do you find yourself in internal arguments, arguing with yourself about what you should do next or about what happened in the past? You might find that one moment you're mired in shame, guilt, and regret, and the next you're angrily reminding yourself how awful your ex is. It's like this internal conflict between two different stories about who you are, who's at fault in this divorce. These kinds of internal arguments are a sign that you're really identifying with how you feel in each moment, and that how you feel is in conflict with what you think or believe. Right? You're forgetting that feelings are something you have, not something you are, and you're believing the story of each feeling moment to moment, and you're creating all of this internal conflict. You miss her, and she was the most amazing woman in the world, right? And then the next moment, you hate her guts for being so spineless and for giving up on your marriage. Or you can't understand why you didn't see the signs and change things sooner, and the confusion and self-doubt are overwhelming, and you wish you could go back and fix it. And at the same time, you know that you were a good man, you were a good husband, you were a good provider, you didn't do anything horrible. You didn't cheat, you didn't drink, you weren't abusive. This is a painful state to be in because the brain believes you are what you feel. And then it also believes that you are what you think, but what you feel and what you think are different. So who the heck are you in the midst of all of that? And when this happens, there's so many contradictions between what you think and what you feel that your brain's like, okay, we have to solve this. And then it gets caught up in trying to solve the why. And now we're back in the logical brain that's not doing anything to resolve the emotions that are in conflict with what you think. The logical brain will not help you get to the calm, clear, peaceful state that you need to be in. We have to create that state first by regulating your nervous system. Then everything's going to look a lot clearer, including your future. All right, so that takes us to secret number 2, which is that every emotion is a messenger with a positive intention. Emotions are no different than any other physical sensation in your body, like hunger or thirst or pain. They exist to tell you important information about what is happening to you and what you need to do to stay healthy. So thirst tells us to drink, pain tells us to be gentle with an injured part of our body, sleepiness tells us to rest. But those physical messages in our body, they're not always 100% accurate. For example, our bodies often crave sugar when we're really dehydrated. We want to eat a big pile of junk food, but what we need is a glass of water. Other times we find ourselves hungry for junk food when we've got an overgrowth of intestinal yeast or bacteria. And in that case, we actually need to resist what our body is telling us to eat in order to help it heal and come back into balance. And now the same is true with emotions. Right? Anxiety can be a legitimate warning that we're facing future uncertainty and we need to be vigilant and pay extra attention and be careful in our choices. Anxiety can also be a habit, a way that we learn to react to certain situations, and we've just kept reacting that way because it's what we've always done. For example, as a child, getting into an argument with an adult or fighting back, getting into conflict with a parent could actually be dangerous for us because if they reject us and leave us alone as a child, we might die. So maybe as a child, we learned to avoid conflict. And so we learned to feel anxious whenever there was a conflict, and that told us to not speak up, to stay quiet, so that we wouldn't cause a rift that could bring us in harm's way. Well, now as an adult, there's really not nearly such dangerous consequences of conflict. We're perfectly safe, and we can have a disagreement with another adult, but we might find ourselves getting anxious and withdrawing from conflict in the same way that we did as a child, right? Because that's the habitual response. That's how we've always responded to conflict. And so that emotion is just conditioned. It's what comes up in that situation. In that case, it's not a legitimate warning about uncertainty. It's just a habit. Every emotion has a positive intention. It might be to protect us from harm, bring us closer to other people, or help us get what we want in life. Sometimes the message is outdated or inappropriate to the circumstances at hand. When you practice limbic awareness, when you use a conscious mind to watch your emotions, you spend a lot of time getting to know these emotions and getting curious about the positive intentions. And with practice, you become quite adept at separating the two apart, at being able to tell the difference between actual hunger and when you need to eat, and a craving for junk food that's just a habit because you've been eating dessert every night and it's what your body wants. Secret number 3 is my absolute favorite. This is the one principle I come back to again and again as a coach. You are not broken. You just have some outdated strategies. Every single bad or dysfunctional behavior you have, from yelling to addictions to shutting down emotionally during a conflict, makes sense. Every single action you regret is a valid strategy. It's just not necessarily the best strategy for the situation at hand or for your goals. If you only take one thing away from this training, I sincerely hope that it is this. Whenever you are dealing with regret or shame or guilt for something that you view as a mistake, stop and ask yourself this question. If Rachel's right, if I'm not broken or evil or bad or wrong, if my actions, words, or feelings make sense somehow, what could be the explanation? What is the positive intention behind this outdated strategy? This perspective is so empowering, you guys. I really hope it's one that you'll take away from this because there is nothing wrong with you. You are just running some seriously outdated software. We all are. We all have to do the work of unwiring it. That's why you respond in the same ways that you did as a child, right? Lashing out, shutting down, distracting yourself with food or alcohol or movies or shopping, hiding. And all of these behaviors that create so much strife in our relationships, they're just outdated strategies from a long time ago that we never updated because we never learned to pay attention and notice them. This can be the one secret that really sets you free from the cage that self-doubt and shame can create for you. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to update some of your strategies. All right, guys, I know I said 3 secrets and 1 strategy, but there's one more secret I want to share with you today. It's called a bonus secret. Human nervous systems evolved to co-regulate. And that just means that it's easier to calm yourself down from a fight or flight reaction. It's easier to move out of freeze when you're in the presence of somebody else who's calm. It also means that it's easier to escalate your emotional state to anger, to anxiety, even into depression when you're around other people who are in those states. This is part of the power of therapy, right? Because being in the same room or being connected to somebody who is calm, emotionally attuned to you, but detached from the circumstances is incredibly healing. It invites your nervous system to come into that same calm state with them. And I'm bringing this up, I wanted to share it with you because depression is so common when you're going through an unwanted divorce for the reasons we've described. And one of the things depression does is it makes us want to isolate ourselves and withdraw from other people. And I would just encourage you to resist that, push against it. Seek out connection. Lean on the people in your life, lean on your family, on your friends, on coaches, on therapists, on online support groups, on communities. Reach out and connect with other people, because it will be so much easier for you to regulate your nervous system when you have the support and connection of other human beings. It's just another simple fact. Our nervous systems evolved to regulate, to respond to the nervous system states of the people around us, so that we could be anxious if we needed to be anxious and flee from a lion, and that we could be calm and peaceful if we were in a safe place with our community. But we can take advantage of this physiological fact to help ourselves heal more quickly. All right, guys, so I want to just recap this one strategy of using conscious awareness to assess and treat the physical symptoms of your distressed nervous system. We do that by consciously witnessing and watching our physical emotions, getting to know the positive intentions, and getting very adept at distinguishing what's a valid emotional message that I need to respond to and what's an old habit that needs to be rewired. As we do this and the nervous system calms down, we can also use that skill of awareness to identify and rewire unhelpful or limiting beliefs that are really holding us back in our lives. So some of the ones that I see amongst my clients are ones like Tommy or Sean or Ken had, that said, no one will want a single dad with young kids, or I'm too old to find a new partner, or there's no good women left out there, or there's no future for me because I had invested everything in this marriage. And I hope that you're starting to be able to see that these beliefs are just that. They're just beliefs, limiting beliefs. And when your brain tells you stories like that all day, you are a victim. You're a victim of your own mind. Your ex-wife can say whatever she wants about you, but only you can make it true. If you take it on and you start telling her stories to yourself, you're putting yourself in a cage. You're limiting what's possible for you in this life. Look at Gabriel. Right? He thought he would never find love again, that his life was over. He's the one I was telling you about earlier, his second divorce, 2 young children. His wife was horrible. He had this strong belief that no one would want a single dad with 2 young kids, that he was going to have to wait till his kids grew up before he could ever possibly date again. And after he used limbic awareness to regulate his nervous system, he felt better, but he still couldn't get past that belief. He was like, yeah, but no one's going to want me. Second divorce, 2 young kids, like who wants to date that? So we applied these tools of self-inquiry to his limiting beliefs, and Gabriel realized that maybe there was a chance, a small chance, that the stories he was telling himself were actually becoming self-fulfilling prophecies, because he would self-sabotage. And he was so nervous whenever he would talk to a woman, because he would just assume he already knew what she was thinking about him, that he never took the steps forward to really give those relationships a chance. So he started working with that belief. He started trying to shift it. Well, what if it's possible? What if maybe there could be somebody who might like me just as I am? And before he even did the full work of rewiring those thoughts, he found himself in a new relationship with an amazing woman who didn't love him despite having kids. She loved him because of it. She loved how good he was with his kids. She loved his commitment and his dedication to their well-being. She admired the way that he handled all of the difficult interactions with his ex-wife. Right? She saw in him the way he handled these challenges. She saw the kind of man he was, and she loved him for that. So I'm not going to give you more examples today of shifting limiting beliefs, but that's where we can go with the next step. And it's with the same set of tools, this limbic awareness, conscious awareness, the ability to witness what's happening inside of you and how it's affecting you out in the world. All right, so we've covered a lot in this last 45 minutes or so, and hopefully you've gotten a lot of value out of this conversation so far. But you guys, honestly, we are just scratching the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more, and I know this can be overwhelming. So I'd like to share some information with you about the course that I've created that teaches you more than just limbic awareness. It gives you the complete divorce recovery program, and it walks you through all of these things we've covered today and more step by step. Because the truth is that you've already got enough on your plate. And yeah, I've given you a lot of good information you could take action on here today, but you don't need to go through this masterclass and figure out how to do it all. What you need is a step-by-step process saying, hey, do this now, do this next, do this exercise, write this down, think about this, so that you can focus on just the next step you need to take, just the next piece you need to handle to keep moving forward. You don't need to figure out this whole puzzle because you've got enough going on. That's why I've created Better Beyond Divorce. In just 20 minutes a day of practice, plus an hour or so a week of watching videos like this one, you can get your emotions under control, your nervous system rebalanced, your ex-wife out of your head, so that you can be successful in your career, successful in dating, present for your kids, moving forward with your life out of that deep dark hole, just like Tommy, just like Gabriel, just like Sean, just like Mark, and so many others have already done. If your mind is racing from this class so far, this will break it down. It will give it to you step by step, a practical roadmap, everything you need to do in order. So I'll talk about this for a few minutes, and then I am going to answer some of those most common questions I get about what women are really thinking during divorce. The program is called Better Beyond Divorce. It's my signature online course for separated and divorced men who need to get their ex-wives out of their heads and finally walk away from feelings of shame and failure so that they can make good legal decisions, stay successful in their careers, be effective fathers, and eventually move forward into new loving relationships. This is a proven step-by-step system for calming your nervous system, regaining your confidence, dealing effectively with your ex-wife, and getting your life back on track after divorce. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this step-by-step with easy-to-follow videos, worksheets, and exercises. If you can't stop picturing your ex with somebody else, or you spend way too much time trying to figure out those whys, right? Trying to understand how she could do this to you, what went wrong. If your brain is just always spinning on those thoughts or those images, how are you going to deal with your day-to-day responsibilities like work or taking care of your kids, much less going through this legal process without giving up too much just to make it stop or starting an unnecessary and really expensive legal battle? How are you going to navigate dating if you can't stop thinking about your ex-wife? At the end of this 4-month course, you won't be thinking about your ex. You won't hate her, you just won't need her to make you feel normal again. You'll wake up looking forward to each day, and you'll genuinely enjoy your work, your children, and yes, I promise, even dating. The promise of this program is to get you back in the driver's seat of your life. You've seen some examples. I've done this with men of all ages, from 23 to 70 years old, first divorce, second divorce, trauma histories, kids, no kids. And I've successfully done it with men who were newly separated and those who had been divorced for years and struggling to move on. Of course, people wonder, will it work for me? Your circumstances are unique. You might be dealing with some especially challenging situations or something I haven't dealt with before. But here's the thing, I have not yet met someone whose nervous system didn't know how to heal itself. Sometimes it takes a little extra time or a little extra support, but with the right support, the right tools, the right step-by-step processes, the human body knows how to heal itself. And this is a physiologic problem. It's happening in the nervous system. It's fight or flight, it's freeze. And when we create the right environment for the nervous system to heal, it knows how to heal, just like your body knows how to heal a cut or a broken bone. Think of Better Beyond Divorce as physical therapy for your nervous system. One of my past clients, Keith, he was so distraught. His nervous system was so upset during the divorce that he just gave his wife everything. He was doing really well financially. He gave her more than she asked for. He gave her so much that he ended up living out of his van for a while. And he ended up in a dead-end job, working nights, no consistent sleep, and just feeling completely broken down. And he knew he had put himself in that situation because he was so desperate to get away from what he was feeling. But after working through the coursework in Better Beyond Divorce, Keith was able to finally rebalance that nervous system, even though it had been in distress for 6 years. By the end of the course, Keith had gotten a promotion. He had successfully negotiated a new work schedule that got him his nights and his weekends back so he could actually sleep. He had the energy and the motivation to start a side business with his art that he had wanted to do forever. He reconnected with his son, whom he had been too ashamed to speak to after the divorce, and he'd missed some major milestones in his son's life. But he was able to recover from all of that despite 6 years of being in the hole in just a few months by applying these tools, these strategies that you learned today. I already told you about Tommy, whose nervous system was so upset that he was shaking. Now he's happily in a new relationship, and he's telling me that he still likes to keep an emotional journal, which is one of the first exercises I have you do inside Better Beyond Divorce, one of those silly exercises. Tommy actually still does it because he likes seeing how many positive emotions he feels every day now. And then there's Ken, who was paralyzed by depression after his divorce. Shame, regret, self-doubt, self-hatred. He could not accept that his ex-wife had moved on and that he didn't have a chance to fix it. He couldn't get past the agony of being a part-time dad. And it took a little time for Ken, but his nervous system was in a bad state and some serious pain. But he didn't give up. He stuck with it. He kept applying these tools, doing the exercises. He got a little extra support. And I can remember clear as day the evening that he came to a coaching call with me and he said, "It's okay. It's okay that it's over. I can see that now." Within weeks of that moment of acceptance, he started dating. He met a woman that he connected deeply with. He never thought that was going to happen again, and he finally moved forward with his life. So can you do this? Will this work for you? Yes. If you are consistent and you show up for yourself and you do the work, I will give you the step-by-step roadmap. I will tell you in that course what to do each and every day. If you do it, it will work. So here's what Better Beyond Divorce is all about. It will help you stop the pain, help you get your ex out of your head, make smart legal choices, smart career decisions, be a great dad, and start dating again. Better Beyond Divorce is a 6-step system. I'd like to invite you to write this down, and it'll be a helpful roadmap whether you join the program or not. In step 1, we go through some simple proven exercises for developing limbic awareness. And in just a couple of weeks, you're going to notice a huge shift. You can see this from Mark. In less than a week, applying these 3 simple yet effective tools, I'm already feeling much better, and when I do start to feel overwhelmed, I use these techniques and calm down almost immediately. Step 2 is restore your confidence in yourself. Restore. We're not building confidence or manufacturing it out of thin air. You are going to discover it within yourself and finally walk away from shame or feeling like a failure. Next is make peace with the past, which is that essential work of getting over your ex-wife so she no longer holds so much power over you. And in step 4, things start to get fun. At this point, you're feeling immensely better. You're no longer looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. You've stepped out into it, and it's time to actively create the life you want. We spend some time diving into communication. You can apply those tools to all of the relationships in your life. And then we answer some important questions that you need to enjoy better relationships. What is love really about? Passion, intimacy, commitment. How do you cultivate and grow these in a relationship so it's really sustainable? So what does the investment for Better Beyond Divorce look like? There's a couple of ways that you can go about doing this work. You can do it on your own, as a lot of men do, and that journey works for a lot of people, but it's just slow. It takes trial and error, takes time, takes money. Most men report a decrease in productivity at work during separation and divorce, with many taking sabbaticals or watching their businesses decline, not to mention making potentially costly legal decisions. There's also the opportunity cost, right? In your career, financially, your next relationship. If you spend time figuring this out, a couple of years, what could you have been doing with that time? What could your life have been with that time? These costs are kind of unquantifiable. If you go it on your own, watching videos on YouTube or figuring it out from this masterclass, it costs you life and money because you don't have that step-by-step roadmap, which is Better Beyond Divorce and the Complete Divorce Recovery Program. You can also go to therapy and unpack it there. And therapy does work, and I think there's such a good place for it. I would never discourage you from working with a therapist after your divorce. The problem is when you do therapy alone, because therapy doesn't come with a step-by-step roadmap. You sit down, you talk about what's going on, and then you do that again, and you do it again, and eventually you do process things, but it's slow. A year of therapy averages somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000. And on average, people spend about 2 years in therapy working to get over a divorce. Whereas in Better Beyond Divorce, you get the Complete Divorce Recovery Program with the step-by-step exercises, worksheets, and guides, and you're learning tools and strategies that you'll be able to use forever whenever life throws you another curveball. And you can do it in the span of 4 months, not in 2 years. We also have the cost of divorce, which on average in America is about $18,000 right now, which is before you actually split up any of your assets, just legal fees. But I do want you to just take a moment and consider the impact of high emotions on divorce. I see it all of the time. Men either giving up too much or starting unnecessary, expensive legal battles because of the high emotions. For instance, somebody was recently talking to me about how he realized he just spent $1,000 on emails going back and forth between their lawyers because he and his wife couldn't agree on whether or not to make copies of the family photos. $1,000 because they couldn't communicate with each other because they were so angry because his emotions were not under his control. But if your emotions are in hand, if your nervous system is balanced and your ex doesn't have the power to rile you up, well, you're going to be clear and calm and make good decisions. The financial savings alone can be massive, not to mention the impact that it's going to have on your kids if you can stay in that balanced headspace during this difficult time. Normally, the investment for Better Beyond Divorce is $2,500, but I want to honor you for taking the time to be here with me in this masterclass. You have already committed to yourself, to your healing, and your future. So for the next 72 hours, you can save $800 and join Better Beyond Divorce for just 4 payments of $425 each. Or you can save even more by making one single payment of $1497 for the full program. That is $1,000 off the normal price of BBD. And because I really appreciate your time and your trust, and as I said at the beginning of this call, I do not take those things lightly, I'm going to make this even easier for you to get your ex out of your head, to rebalance your nervous system so that you can show up for yourself, your kids, and a future partner by throwing in some amazing bonuses. First bonus is 4 months of access to the Better Beyond Divorce community, which is a private support group of amazing men who actually get what you're going through because they're there too, and they're working through it right alongside you. The second bonus is a group coaching call with me every month where we'll work through the shame, the guilt, the resentment, the anger, and so much more. You'll also be able to get coaching from me there inside the Better Beyond Divorce community. I'm really active in that community and I'll respond to your posts. Bonus number 3 is a live Q&A session. It's an office hours call with me every month. And if you ever can't make this call, I'll send out an email ahead of time asking you for questions and I'll answer them on the call and send you the recording. And then the final bonus, which is my favorite one, it's a collection of NLP brain hacks to help you stop these painful emotions. It's a series of 9 guided NLP visualizations that are going to help you deal with everything from overwhelm to loss of sleep to anger to so much more. You guys, if you did nothing else, if you don't even touch the coursework and you just listen to these NLP recordings, you're night and day how you feel. Just these recordings alone are going to help you rebalance your nervous system if you just listen to one of them each day. So this bonus is huge. It could, really, if you were feeling lazy and didn't want to do the coursework, it could replace everything. But I wouldn't recommend it because you're going to get so much more out of it if you really understand what you're doing and why and can drive that process yourself. But those NLP visualizations are going to be there for you as one of the bonuses. I have some very exciting updates to share with you about the Better Beyond Divorce program. There's actually 3 key updates, and I'm going to go through them quickly, and then we can get on to the what she's really thinking part at the end of this training. So update number 1, BBD now has a full client success program built in. That means that myself and my client success team are going to be with you every single step of the way, making sure that you know exactly what you need to do next, customizing the program where we need to help you get the best support that you need. So if you're worried about staying accountable, staying on track, getting overwhelmed, do not worry about that anymore, because myself and the BBD team, we're going to be there for you every step of the way. We're going to check in. I promise we won't harass you too much, but we're going to be there to make sure you know what you need to do next. If you get stuck, we're going to be checking in, asking, helping you stay on track. We also have announcement number 2. We now have 2 study groups every single week in BBD. You guys, it's like 8 sessions a month that you are getting at no extra charge. This is turning BBD from like a $2,500 program into a $5,000 program. Haven't raised the price yet. It's probably coming later this year. But I am just seeing such amazing results with these study groups. They're run by my past members. So men who have gone through divorce, but also gone through the BBD program. They know the material inside and out, and they are there to work with you, to support you. The camaraderie, the level of brotherhood, support, and the depth in which the clients who are going to these study sessions are able to get to, the speed at which they're able to use these tools to really get real results in their lives. It's just been spectacular to see. So I'm so excited to be able to offer this to you for free as part of the Better Beyond Divorce offer. So for the entire time that you're in BBD, you will have access to these 2 study group sessions every single week. Okay, and finally, I have an amazing money back guarantee to share with you. I know that I'm asking you to take a risk. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust this program. I'm asking you to invest your time and your money into this process with us. I've now had over 400 men go through Better Beyond Divorce, and through that work with them, I've been able to see
What are the specific steps, the specific actions that you need to take to get the results that you want? I have taken that experience and I have put it into a 60-day process. And don't worry, it's not overwhelming. Each week, there is just one task for you to do. It's not very long, 20 to 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And then I ask you to spend about an hour a week in the program. I'm going to ask you to come to some of those study groups. You don't have to come to all of them, come to a couple a month. I host those 2 coaching calls a month. Come to my coaching calls if you can. If you follow my 60-day protocol, you are going to feel completely different 2 months from now. I'm not saying you're going to be totally out of the woods and like out dating and already building your new life, but you are going to see very, very clearly where you need to go next. You are not going to be overwhelmed by your emotions. You are not going to be governed and hijacked by those ruminating thoughts that won't let you sleep and won't let you rest. You are going to have clarity. You're going to have confidence. You're going to look ahead and you're going to say, wow, Rachel, I know exactly where I'm going. I know it is possible for me. Some guys at that 60-day mark are already jumping forward. They're ready to start dating. Others, they're not there. Maybe they're not going to be there for a while. Healing is not, it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? You have a lot of unique things in your own history, a lot of unique things that happen in your marriage. There's going to be a lot of factors. But I can promise you this, if you follow this protocol in 60 days, you are going to feel so much better and you are going to have absolute clarity on where you're going next. And if you don't, then I will refund your entire investment in BBD.
So 72 hours, you guys, to buy the course and get all of these bonuses, the community, the extra coaching, the NLP hacks, and then the price is going to go back up. And I'm doing this for a reason. This isn't just to like get you to buy the course. It's to help you make a decision. I don't want you to stay stuck. And depression keeps us stuck. It makes us so hard to make choices when we're in that state. And so it's hard to invest in yourself anyway. It's even harder to invest in yourself when your brain is spinning with thoughts of your ex-wife or you're feeling like a failure because of the divorce. So I just want to make it as easy as possible for you to know if this is right for you and to make a clear decision one way or the other. That's why I'm giving you the 72-hour time limit on this amazing price and these bonuses. So that's me. That's why I'm doing this. That's why the huge discount and the bonuses. That's why the money back guarantee, because I don't want to see another man lose his life unnecessarily to the pain of an unwanted divorce. These tools work. They work consistently for everyone with a human nervous system that I've ever tried them on who's shown up and done the work, and I want them to be accessible and available to you too. So here's what some of the guys who are in Better Beyond Divorce right now are saying. Thank you for your personal engagement. I don't feel like I'm just another paying subscriber interfacing with the same recorded content with little or no actual support. You guys, I'm really active in the community. If you post, you will hear from me. We can do some coaching there. This work, if you can't tell already, I'm really, really passionate about this. If you're committed to it, I'm committed to you. I'm there, I'm live. This is not just another pre-recorded course where you won't get support. Thanks again, Rachel, for all you've done for me. I can't even begin to put a value on it. I know I've got a ton more work to do, but I can honestly say I might be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. You might be having a hard time seeing that light, you guys. It's there and it will get bigger and brighter. Rachel, you should know that your knowledge and teachings are absolutely life-changing. I continue to improve and feel better. Many of the thoughts and feelings I'm recognizing are inside of me are not new from the divorce. I believe they are old and have probably been dragging me down for some time, even years. You are in the right place. I'm amazed at the progress I've been able to make with Rachel's help in following the coursework. This is one of my favorites. This is a place to learn and build. This is like the gym for your mind and heart. Hang in there, brother. All right, guys, so if you're ready to dive into this with me, you can join Better Beyond Divorce right here. You'll get immediate access to all of the courses and the communities. And please know that you have 72 hours to decide if this course is right for you and get all of these great bonuses and the discounted price. And if you have any questions, you can just reply to any email I send you. I'm going to send you the replay, some follow-up emails. Just reply to them if you have any questions. You'll reach me or somebody on my team, and we'll answer any questions that you have. Okay, so I think that's everything you need to know about Better Beyond Divorce. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Let's take a moment and talk about what women are thinking during divorce. So we've been talking a lot about the human nervous system and the different nervous system states. And I'm going to encourage you, if you're trying to understand your ex-wife, well, I'm going to put a caveat on here. You don't need to understand your ex-wife right now. Remember how I said that this is one of the ways that men stay stuck is asking the why, because that's your brain trying to like logic, and what you're really trying to find out is if you're good enough, worthy enough, who's the bad guy in this divorce. And that's not actually going to help you calm your nervous system or get to that internal state where you actually feel confident in your own self-worth or you've forgiven your mistakes. So all that to say, I'm going to answer this question because I know you all have it. What is she thinking? But it's not where the important work is. And if you find the answer less than satisfying, well, that's because your logical brain is not communicating with your limbic system. Okay, but let's answer it anyway. So anytime you're trying to understand another human being, you've got to consider the state their nervous system is in. Because what somebody does when they're in a calm and grounded state is going to be very different than what they do when they're in fight or flight or freeze. So if you start to look at your ex's behaviors through the lens of what state her nervous system must be in, it'll all start to make more sense. So one of the things a lot of men experience is that she seems so cold. Here's this woman I shared a life with. She loved me. She claimed to love me. And she's like ice cold. And maybe it feels really sudden that she's become cold. So a lot of guys end up understandably feeling like, well, she must never have loved me. It must not have been real. I never knew who this person was. She's really like this cold ice queen monster. That coldness is often a sign of a freeze state. Right? What happens in freeze? Well, and it's called freeze. I wish we had a better name for it, because even overwhelm is the start of a freeze state. Depression is a freeze state. Freeze can look like a lot of different things, but it's a numbing. What you're feeling is really painful and you can't do much about it. So your brain decides to not feel it so much so that maybe you just somehow make it through. Right? So if your wife has made the decision to leave their marriage, she's going to feel pain, even if it's her choice. I know it's different. She has the agency in it. It's not an easy choice to leave a marriage, you guys. I don't care how she's acting. She's not getting through this without some serious emotions. But a couple of things are likely going on. She's feeling extreme pain, but she's made this decision. So if that pain is too intense, her brain might be starting to shut some of that down. But our nervous system isn't capable of only shutting off painful emotions. It can only dull all emotions. This is why depression can be so upsetting. It's not just a numbing of pain, it's a numbing of joy. Right? We can't feel pleasure, we can't feel excitement, we can't see the future. So if her brain is trying to protect her from the pain of what she's doing, this divorce, it's very likely numbing her emotional experience, so she's not feeling love for you. Something else to know about a nervous system that's activated. If a nervous system is not grounded and calm and balanced, if it's in any degree of fight or flight or freeze, that human brain is thinking selfishly. Because think about what fight, flight, and freeze are. They're all survival strategies. They're ways that we stay alive when we feel threatened. Well, to stay alive, I better be thinking about me, right? Because if I'm out hunting a bison and I'm about to get gored and I'm thinking about my wife and kids back home, well, I'm probably gonna die, right? So if I'm in fight or flight, I'm thinking about myself. If your wife or your ex-wife, if her nervous system is activated at all, she's not thinking about you. She might not even be thinking about the kids. She's thinking about herself because she's in a survival state. And again, remember, this is outdated information. She doesn't need to be in a survival state. This isn't life and death. But her nervous system doesn't know that. Just like your nervous system doesn't know that her leaving isn't a life and death issue. And this is where our ignorance as a society, the fact that we don't really talk about or understand these primal reactions in our physiology, gets in the way, because it leads us to do things that can seem really extreme, right? Even walking away from and ignoring our children, or leaving a marriage instead of working on it, because we don't understand why we feel something so intensely. We're trusting that that feeling is telling us something legitimate about what we need in order to be safe or to stay alive. It feels like we're gonna die because we don't understand the primal responses behind it. So if she's in fight or flight or freeze, she's gonna be selfish. So are you. So you can look for that tendency in your own brain, your tendency to think about yourself and have a harder time empathizing with or stepping into others' shoes when you're feeling distressed. Another thing that's often happening with women during divorce that's not so related to their nervous system state is that they feel the need to justify their choice. So they've made a difficult choice. They might not fully even understand why themselves, right? They know they're not happy. They know things aren't working. They know something has to change. It's likely that they're lacking agency or purpose in their own lives, and they're seeking that, and they feel like they have to be outside the marriage to do that because they don't feel safe to pursue those things within the marriage. There can be a lot of things going on. But for one reason or another, they've made the choice to leave. And now, because we have a lot of societal stories about love and about marriage and expectations and vows, a lot of people are looking at them. And a lot of people are doing what you're doing, trying to figure out who the asshole in this situation is. Is she the bad guy for leaving, or are you the bad guy that was so horrible she had to leave? Right? That's how we look as a society at divorce, like it's somebody's fault. The reality is that it's two human beings whose nervous systems were activated most of the time, who were operating on bad strategies that they carried forward from childhood, who didn't know how to communicate, didn't know how to resolve conflict, didn't know how to help each other feel emotionally, physically, mentally safe, right? All of that was happening on both sides. It's neither of their fault, right? Because these are not things that we learn. We're not taught how to deal with our emotions, how to communicate effectively. It should be in every elementary school curriculum, but it isn't. What's really going on is a very complex and challenging set of circumstances around a human relationship. But our tendency is to just oversimplify it. Well, either he's the asshole or she's the asshole, and we've got to figure out which one it is. And so a lot of women get mean during divorce. And they'll say bad things, and they'll drag your name through the mud, and they'll lie, and it's brutal. And I think a lot of times that behavior is because they're believing that somebody has to be the bad guy, and they're trying so hard for it not to be them. How are you feeling right now? I'm talking about why women do the things they do, why your ex-wife might be doing the things she's doing. I bet you're not feeling very good. And I bet it's not helping. If anything, it's probably triggering, because I'm explaining things in terms of her nervous system and the complexities. I even just said a minute ago, it's neither of their faults. And it might be making you angry. You might be feeling like, well, it is her fault, and she is the one that's bad. And, don't tell me she isn't. And if this is stressful to you, if it's triggering to you, take a deep breath, please. And I'd like to just invite you to see that the why is not what you need. You don't need to understand why she's doing what she's doing. And you don't need to understand why she did what she did. Because until your nervous system is balanced and calm, and you feel safe and loved and clear and open and calm, none of this is going to help. It's just going to escalate. It's just going to create more fight or flight. It's just going to push more buttons and make you feel more helpless. So I'm begging you, please take a break from asking why. We answer, in Better Beyond Divorce, we answer the whys in step 3, making peace with the past. And the reason that it happens in step 3 is because if we try to do it before, it's just triggering, which is probably what you're feeling right now. It's just upsetting because your nervous system is not calm and grounded. And until we get those things taken care of, there's really just no use in asking the why question. We've got to take care of your nervous system first. We've got to get you feeling strong and whole and clear and happy and healthy inside of yourself. And then this is all going to look very different, and it's going to make sense in new ways. Okay, guys, thank you so much for bearing with me for this whole masterclass. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I hope you took some wonderful value away from this. And I hope to see you inside of Better Beyond Divorce. It really is the fastest way to get your ex out of your head, to get your nervous system in balance, and to really move forward with your life and get happy again. So the light is there. Don't give up on it. And please keep going back to what we wrote down at the beginning of this masterclass, what you want things to look like 6 months from now. Let that be a little shining glimpse of the light that you know you're moving towards. All right, guys, thanks again for being here with me, and hopefully I'll see you inside of Better Beyond Divorce.